Hey everybody, it's Andrew again, your average jeweler. I am glad to be back talking today about diamonds. Specifically, are diamonds a good investment? Now this is honestly a tricky question, so anyone that gives a fast answer to this, they're probably leaving some things out because there's so many dimensions to it, and a lot of people are actually looking for different things when they ask this question. So I want to answer a few things today. I want to talk about the buying and selling process and how that relates to the value, and then also what diamonds are an investment, if any of them. Let's talk about it. First of all, thank you so much for being here. If you're coming back, appreciate it. We recently got over 1,000 subscribers on this channel, and so we're looking to continue growing that. I hope if you haven't subscribed, you'll hit that button below, along with the little bell icon, so you'll know when new videos come out. And I also just appreciate those of you that are maybe new here. This might be your first video on the channel, so welcome. Today, when I talk about diamonds, and specifically investing in diamonds, one of the most common scenarios is when someone's buying a diamond, they want to know, is this going to grow in value? Now, for starters, there's a lot of opinions on this subject, and most of the time when I hear people answer this question, they don't deal with a lot of facts. For instance, diamonds are extremely inflated is what they'll say, and so diamonds, you know, they're worthless almost as soon as you buy them, or they lose all their value right after you buy them. And there's really a lot of missing context behind that question. And it has to do with the quality of the diamond that you're buying and the time period that you're talking about. Those are really the two biggest factors, because when you're dealing with something losing its value or deflation in general, different things lose their value at a different rate. And that is super important to keep in mind when you're talking about, is something a good investment or is it an investment? Now, when we talk about clothing versus buying a car, most of us recognize that those lose value at a different rate. People talk about if you buy a new car, you drive it off the lot, and most people will say you've lost thousands of dollars of value as soon as you drive it off the lot. However, cars will usually lose value at an incremental rate from that point based on its age and its use and its mileage. And so there's all kinds of formulas to try and figure out what is the current value of my car. When we're dealing with something like clothes, for example, most people are hard-pressed to get a lot out of their clothes. If you take really good care of them, and if they're nice, desirable clothing, you may be able to resell them for something to recoup that value. And I think it's interesting, if I was to relate it to something like the fashion world, when you have higher, bigger, well-known names and you keep good care of them, you're probably more likely to get a good amount of that value back. Now, I'm going to bring it back to jewelry at this point and start explaining to you how deflation works when we talk about jewelry, and specifically when we talk about diamonds. When you buy a diamond, you're usually paying market value, like most things. And if you think you got a really good super deal on it, there's a good chance you didn't, or maybe you bought something used and you actually paid for some of the things we're going to be discussing a little bit. But when you buy a diamond new, there's all these criteria that we've talked about. We talk about the 4 C's, how big the diamond is, how well it's cut, how clean it is inside, what the color of the diamond is. All of those things go into the initial value of a diamond, but we forget something. And that is, what is the material value of the diamond versus what is the value to get it to you? What's the value to produce it? What's the value to transport it? What is the value and the cost behind mining? Those are all questions that I don't think people really put them together. Because when you're talking about a tiny little diamond, you're talking about a lot more cost to get that diamond to market. To take a tiny little, we'll say a 10-point stone, 0.1 carat stone, and to get that to you, it still has to be cut, which takes a similar amount of time to a larger stone, although they may not take quite as much care. And you talk about the transportation and the mining. It went through a very similar process to bigger diamonds. but there's more of them, so you don't necessarily have that rarity. So a lot of the value in smaller diamonds is the cost to get it to you, and the value for you to want something of that nature, whether it's implementing it with a lot of other small diamonds or whether you just wanted a single small diamond. There's a lot more cost involved in the process to get it to you, as opposed to that material by itself being more valuable or more rare. So as you move up the scale, as you can imagine, diamonds do become exponentially more rare as they get bigger. And yes, I wish more people would look into it when they say diamonds aren't rare. Quite frankly, that's one of the most ignorant things I hear, because diamonds on a large scale, they do have a lot of rarity, and the diamonds that people buy and spend a lot of money on, those are fewer and far between. Diamonds as a mineral, no, they're not quite as rare. But when you compare it to a mineral like quartz, so your amethyst, your citrine, your clear quartz, all of those different varieties, diamond as a mineral is far more rare. So I do want to address that. I plan on explaining that a little bit more with some details and some specifics, your statistics, to try and help people understand that a little bit. But when people blanketly say diamonds aren't rare, they're not really understanding the diamonds that most people purchase and that most people are looking for. They are actually very difficult to find and to come by. So if you're someone who has been saying diamonds aren't rare, maybe you won't even listen to me, maybe you won't even look into it. Diamonds as a material, yes, there's tons and tons, literally, of commercial quality diamonds, but the pretty ones that people want, those are literally harder to find and therefore more rare than a lot of things you buy. It's just the facts. You can go check it out. You can find everyone talking about how they're not really rare, but at the end of the day, why don't you go find one if they're not so rare? So that's a little bit of a rabbit trail for me. I feel like I hear that a lot. But to get back on point, when we're talking about the investment of a diamond, as that rarity goes up and as those larger stones are harder and harder to find, then they are going to have more material value, more inherent value in the material, because you can't just go out and dig one up at will. They dig tons of diamonds, literally it's 2 tons of diamonds for every 1 carat stone that they find. Or excuse me, 2 tons of mining material for every 1 carat stone that they find. So they have to go through a lot of material to find a 1 carat stone, and that increases exponentially as the stone gets larger. 3 carat stones and larger, the amount of them that they mine in an entire year can fit in a softball. Again, I know I'm getting a little off point trying to help people understand that there is a rarity aspect to this, but those are just the facts. The larger and nicer they are, the harder they are to find. So when you relate to investment, the material value or the inherent value is going to carry more investment value moving forward. So the nicer the stone, the larger the stone, the more inherently rare a stone is, it's going to carry more of that value forward. Now that doesn't mean there's a cost to get that diamond to you, because somebody still had to mine it, somebody still had to do the manufacturing part, the cutting of the stone, and somebody had to get the stone to you, whether that was a retail store or even if you bought the diamond online. Someone was trying to sell that diamond to you, and there's all kinds of costs involved with that. If it's a retail store, they have to keep the lights on, they have to heat the place, they have to pay for staff. There's costs involved in that part, even when the diamond is much more expensive. Now, margins start to get much smaller for a lot of those people. They're not taking huge margins on larger diamonds. I can tell you that it's competitive enough that they're not able to take a huge chunk of the price you're paying. But they do need to make a profit, otherwise they wouldn't be trying to help you. That's just how it works. So the nicer the stone, the larger the stone, the better the criteria, the more inherent material value it has, and therefore it's going to carry that value through. So let me give you some numbers. If you have a diamond that you paid $100 for, you probably paid the cost of mining and shipping and cutting and whatever the sale price of someone who put it into something and sold it to you is. That was most of what you paid. So if you go to try and resell a diamond that cost $100, the material value is pretty low. I mean, the person that purchased it to put it into something went out and specifically looked for that size in most cases. And so buying it back, they're thinking, well, now I have to go through the process of sorting it. I have to go through the process of grading it. It has very little material value to them. So don't expect to get off for a lot, and don't expect for that to grow a lot in value over time. Maybe if you wait 100 years, it'll be back to what you paid for it. I don't know. I can't forecast that far out. But let's go up just another increment. Let's talk about a more typical diamond. Maybe someone pays $2,000 to $4,000 for a diamond, and you can get yourself a pretty decent natural diamond, and you can certainly get yourself a very nice lab-grown diamond for that, although lab-grown diamonds are a very different conversation on investment. They usually don't hold their value as well. But let's say a natural diamond, $2,000 to $4,000, and you buy that diamond, you're paying more in cost for them to produce it than the smaller diamond. There is a little more care taken. There's maybe a little bit more time to find the right customer for a more expensive diamond. And so there are some of those higher distribution costs than compared to a $100 diamond, but the percentage of the material value of a $2,000 to $4,000 diamond is much higher. So somebody going to resell a $2,000 to $4,000 diamond immediately, they might get someone that offers them maybe not quite half the value, but 30 to 50% depending on the stone, you may be able to get immediately trying to resell it. And there's not a lot of things you can do that with. I mean, try and buy a shirt at Kohl's for $40 and then try and go sell it to someone for $20. It's probably not going to happen, especially if you bought it closer to retail price because it was more trendy or popular and you just wanted it. Maybe if you got it on a really good sale price, you can resell it, but now you're getting into something completely different. Now let's take that up another notch, and let's say you bought a $10,000 diamond. Now, if you bought a $10,000 diamond, most people should easily be able to go out and sell a nice $10,000 diamond with the proper paperwork for at least half of what they paid for it, if not a bit more. And maybe you take that another step. Maybe we start talking about really big diamonds. Hundreds of thousands. Usually diamonds like that are few and far between. There are not a lot of them. So maybe it's sold at an auction, or maybe you have one of them floating around. Usually they're whatever's available when you start getting into those kind of diamonds. So that you might even be able to resell it for what you paid for it not too far down the road. Or like a lot of stocks, maybe you bought it at a peak price and so you go to sell it soon after and it's maybe 20% less. Those are the type of diamonds that people might consider investment diamonds because there's not a lot of them, and with pretty high confidence over time, that value will go up. Now let's step back to that $10,000 diamond. You might only have to wait 5 or 10 years before you can easily recoup what you paid for that diamond. Something I'm alluding to in all this is that there are market values. Market values fluctuate, supply and demand changes, the diamond market changes, and so you can't really predict it scientifically. But with a reasonable confidence, the nicer diamond you buy, the more likely it is an investment diamond. Now let me sum all of this up because this was a lot more information than I even intended to get into. But if I was to try and summarize, are diamonds a good investment? I would say yes, if you bought it for the right reasons. If you're buying a nice diamond for an engagement ring or any diamond that you appreciate for a special event, then you're investing in whatever that is that you're appreciating, whether it's an anniversary or whether you're commemorating your wedding, or it could be anything. You're investing in that part of things. So quite frankly, because of what jewelry is, you shouldn't really be thinking of it in strictly financial terms. Now, we put a dollar amount on things because that's what we have to do in a market situation. But again, you flip the switch a little bit, and if someone really wanted to invest in diamonds for financial purposes, they can. I don't recommend it. I think it's too tricky for most people. And if you want to buy the diamond because you like it, then you're more likely to get your money back out of it. But I can't say that diamonds should be purchased for financial investment. I hope you've listened to this entire video and that you're taking it in. Some of these things you may go back and listen to again, or you may want some time to process. And there are certainly some opinions behind this. I know that some people might say diamonds are a complete waste of money. If you're in that camp, maybe you're watching this for the wrong reasons, and hopefully you do just a little bit more research and a little less fuming. But you don't have to buy a diamond. And so when you do buy a diamond, I would say that your motivation shouldn't be for investment reasons. You should go out and buy a diamond because you want the diamond. I hope you'll let me know below if this is something that you've had to think through before. Not everyone does. I think a lot of people go about the diamond purchase because it's for an important life event and something they want to last and be able to look at and remember something special for the rest of their lives. That's a much more common situation. But if you're someone wrestling with this idea of, are diamonds a good investment? I think you need to look at the whole grand scheme, and this may be something that's just more curiosity than anything, but I wouldn't go out looking for diamonds just so you can resell them for more money. A lot of diamonds that people bought 30, 40 years ago, yeah, they're way more than what they bought that diamond for, but that wasn't the reason they purchased it. And that shouldn't be the reason I think most people buy diamonds. It's a very specific niche to try and invest in diamonds. I hope that helps. Again, hit the like button if you've watched this video all the way through. It's a lot of information. I hope it helps, and I hope you'll keep coming back so that we can keep learning together.